The broadcasting. Welcome you, dear colleagues, the candidates, and the public. Today is the 21st of January 2025. The advisory group of experts is here to have an interview with the candidate for the position of the Judge of Constitutional Court of Ukraine, Mykhailo Savchyn. The present members of National Advisory Group are the members of Nature Group Miroslav Yernyuk, Mr. Shakun, and Mr. Alash Zaman. Also, the deputy members of the National Advisory Expert Group are the relevant Misters. I want to say we are working in the shelter, so in case air raid alarm will be announced, the interview will go uninterrupted. I remind you also there is a recording of the interview ongoing, and it's broadcasting to the official on the official resources of the Advisory Group Experts and Constitutional Court of Ukraine. I draw the attention of the members of AGE and candidates as regards the restriction of using sensitive data and the restricted access information. In case of need of discussing such issues, the broadcasting will be suspended. We are ready to start the work. I give the floor to the Secretary of AG, Marina Connor, to introduce the candidate and to remind the regulation of the interview. Maureen, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, all. Good morning to my colleagues and to those who are watching our proceedings this morning. As our chair has said, the advisory group of experts will now interview the candidate, Mykhailo Savchyn. I hereby recall that the interview, or to let you know that the opportunity to interview is a mandatory step in assessing candidates within the assessment of their compliance with the criterion of high moral qualities. The time allocated for this interview is no more than 1 hour, and the time limit for answering each question by the candidate is no more than 3 minutes. As always, we ask each candidate to be concise and to provide answers that are clear, unambiguous, and to the point. At the end of the interview, the candidate may make a brief final closing statement that will be no more than 5 minutes. I would also point out that in the course of processing materials about the candidate, the advisory group of experts sent questions to provide written explanations, so the candidate has had an opportunity to prepare for this interview and to provide answers. So now here is the candidate for the position of Judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, whom the Selection Commission under the President of Ukraine has admitted to the competitive selection. Our candidate is the director of the Research Institute of Comparative Public and International Law at Uzhhorod National University, a national expert of the Council of Europe on constitutional and parliamentary reform, as well as a national trainer of the Council of Europe on European anti-discrimination standards. A member of the Scientific Advisory Board to the Speaker of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, a member of the Professors' Council of the Ukrainian Free University located in Munich, Germany, and a trainer at the Small Academy of International Law for students and postgraduate students of Ukrainian law schools. He has obtained his Doctor of Law degree in 2014, with his research focused on the constitutionalism and nature of the Constitution, theory and practice of implementation. Our candidate is the author of over 300 scientific and popular science publications in professional journals and media. He also served as an advisor to the President of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine from 2008 to 2010. Moreover, I would like to remind you that Mr. Savchyn participated in the competitive selection process last year and underwent an interview with the advisory group of experts. Mr. Savchyn, if you would like to add anything to the introduction that I just gave, you can take 3 minutes to do so now.
Красно дякую за представлення.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Everything was right. As you see, I have mainly academician's career also. I start my professional career in the Uzhgorod city court, so I know how the jurisdiction do. And also I was a representative of the constitutional court, so it is something I know about, and I will tell about this in my conclusion words. I do I was continuing my academician's career as an expert, and last year there was a burst of activity. Thank you.
In 2024, you did participate in the selection process for the position of judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, and the advisory group of experts decided that you did not meet the criterion at that time for the purposes of selecting candidates for the position of judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine on a competitive basis. Have you addressed or rectified the issues or circumstances that served as a basis for the advisory group of experts' decision regarding your candidacy the last time? And if not, please explain why.
Дивіться,
There was some unconscious approach. There's an issue how to interpret such an unconscious approach as a sign of high moral properties as regards integrity. Talking about judge, it's going about how the judge is preparing the decisions and how it's justifying them. So it goes also about the compliance in style of life. I had problems with non-payment of taxes, but I had data up to 2020 only. I corrected those problems. And also I had some problems about taxes for the summer school of rule of law. I paid the unpaid taxes for 2020, also corrected the situation with 23 and 21. In 22 the school was not being conducted due to the beginning of full-scale invasion. In 2023 I reported for my incomes for 23, and I paid taxes for 23. Also in 24 I paid taxes for the activities of the summer, incomes from the activities of the summer school. And also I was addressing to OSCE office. They don't have correspondence remains. Since that time their status changed. I have no relevant data, and I even have no contract with them remaining. Sometimes they engaged me in other projects, and there was such a procedure earlier that they paid my traveling expenses to the venue and the daily allowances. That is how it happened in the recent years as well. In 2020 I don't even have now my contract for 2020, so I was based on the invoice only, and I paid taxes regarding the amount of that invoice. Thank you.
That you are current with all of your tax obligations. Okay.
ну, я ще дякую. І ще доповню.
Yes, I want to add that even when we look, there is some notion of lost taxes and for something that is lost, something from the point of view of the tax legislation, it is the debt, lost debt already not to be paid. according what regards my declarations, I haven't been engaged with them. But now my last declarations have been corrected according to the legislation. I addressed to the accountants and the representatives of tax inspections on that regard, and I corrected the declarations.
What is the reason for this non-payment of taxes for this period of time? I know that you say that you've corrected this and any declarations that you needed to correct, but I'm curious as to why that was necessary, why the taxes were not paid each year as they were due.
Ну, тут
There are two aspects. In the previous interview, I mentioned I have an erroneous understanding of my status. As I was engaged as an expert by OSCE, it is one point, and as another aspect, I'm talking this for foreign representatives of AGE. In our tax legislation, there is not regulated the precision constitution. Each citizen has to submit a tax declaration, but the law doesn't say exactly how an ordinary citizen is submitting the citizens. In practice, there are three categories of persons who submit declarations: those who have credit or a loan, the persons, children of which are studying at some university, or persons who have rather a large amount consumer loans. Then they submit declarations on the interests to be paid, for which there was a discount. Those are the three categories of those who would submit declarations, and in the rest, the public civil servants and the judges are submitting taxes. For example, the teachers of the university, most of the teachers of the university do not submit declarations if they are not entrepreneurs or if they are not the managers of the university. For example, prorectors and the deans are submitting declarations. If a teacher if the academician of the university is not entrepreneur, most probably he will not submit declarations, and also if he has no large loan. Thank you.
Forward, if you have doubts, it would be fair to say that the best practice would be to get an expert to help you, to make sure that you are doing it correctly. Is that fair to say?
ну так, ну я
Yes, it is true, but I was constrained to do so because, for example, in 2023, I mistakenly indicated my declaration that I have got the stipend, the grant, and then I was explaining additionally that those few international agreements with Slovak Republic, but then I talked to the representative of tax inspection, and he explained me, yeah, you have not to pay taxes for that, because there is a convention of scientific on scientific and technical cooperation ratified by our parliament, and that convention has legal force because it is ratified and it is prevailing over the national legislation.
Now, as noted earlier, you're the author of more than 300 scientific works and publications, including textbooks. In particular, a 2024 textbook entitled Comparative Constitutional Law that was authored by you, and it was a published volume. What were the sources of funding for the printing of this textbook?
Ви маєте на увазі фінансування, так? У мене хороша історія, дивіться.
I have a good story about that. The situation is rather complicated. Very often the authors do pay themselves to print. I had published something, the comparative law science comparative part, and the editorial paid for that. And now the comparison of constitutional law, all the expenses have been undertaken by the editorial house, because what I am publishing, it is good for them, it is in line with the policies, but it is rather large expenses for per a copy. And if we take the comparative constitutional law, they have a stage of pre-booking. Accordingly, all the expenses were paid by the editorial house. If we take scientific articles, there is a practice, and the colleagues will confirm, often the author has to pay for the publication. And it happens rarely with me. There is a scientific herald of Uzhgorod University in the series of law. As the university workers, I may publish there free of charge, but for other journals, other editions, you have to pay for publication, but rarely I have such situations. Sometimes I am paying to support the editorial house due to our friendly relationships. But as a rule, I am writing rather topical articles which are necessary, and I do not pay for them. Another point, I am heading an institute. We had several projects. Please be laconic. Please wrap up the unanswer to your question. And there was addition, and it was financed. Yes, thank you. We ask you to be concise, laconic, to the essence of the question. The question was about specific publication and the sources for its finances, because we are interested by that edition, comparative and constitutional law, because during the interview last year in March, you presented this. What is the circulation, the print run of that publication? Comparative constitutional law. There is just a pre-booking. It is planned to be printed in 200 copies, and the next circulation will be according to the agreement. So for this circulation, the editorial house is bearing the expenses. Yes, and for the manual books for you publish, do you have some income on that? Yes, there's symbolic payment I do receive according to the agreement, but there is a monograph, a manual is publishing, and it is to cover 3 years. You get some income according to the agreement. Do you declare that income for tax?
Once I get money, then of course I will declare it. For now, I do not have any payment, so I do not declare that. Previously, I sold my textbooks as well, and I have that in my declarations. We really have such a prevalent Ukrainian practice that when people who are not burdened with some status of a private of a civil servant, or who are not obliged to declare the expenses and income, they do get income, but they do not declare it. I think that you, as a candidate for the position of the judge of the Constitutional Court, should not include yourself into this category of persons. And it's really pleasant that you made conclusions based on the previous interview, that you got respective consultations from employees of the accounting office and from the tax inspection, and that you corrected what you could correct. Mr. Mykhailo, I have one more question to you. During the previous interview, it was established that in your declarations for 2018, 2020, and 2022, you did not declare your participation in LLC judicial practice. And you did not provide information about NGO, Regional Agency for Academic Research, European Law, even though you were obliged to do that. Besides, back then, after the interview, you expressed your position that you were going to get rid of corporate rights in this LLC, and that you would initiate liquidation of this NGO, Regional Agency for Academic Research, European Law. Have you managed to implement your intentions in reality? Thank you. With respect to LLC judicial practice, in April I left it. And with respect to NGO, organizational issues are ongoing. It is necessary to collect people and to liquidate it. But you have been doing everything possible to implement that. Yes, yes, yes. One of the co-founders died, that is a colleague as well, but there are other people and it can be done, and I can take measures regarding that. Okay, clear. Mykhailo, I do not have any more questions to you. Mykhailo? Dear colleagues, do we have any more questions to Mykhailo? Vasil? Yes, please. I have. And I would kindly ask to stop the broadcast. Upon request of the AGE member, let's suspend the broadcast. Dear colleagues, do we have any more questions to the candidate? Mr. Mykhailo, now you have up to 5 minutes to address us with concluding remarks. Thank you. In fact, I will publish an article regarding this competition. It's almost ready. The AGE has the highest possible standard regarding competitive selection of judges. There arise several problems from the perspective of academic perspective. We should differentiate it. As you can see, many candidates come from judges of general courts, and if we compare it with the methodology applied by the HQCJ, they have many parameters that are typical for activities of a judge at the position. And here the public is much broader, including attorneys, academics, who are represented in the competition. Probably it is necessary to take these things into account. At the same time, you have a very responsible mission ahead of you, and it is great that this competition is being held, because in the past it was mostly a political procedure, and we know standards during the last election of the judge to the European Court of Human Rights, and this has showed approaches, and I see that these standards are being adhered to by the AGE as well. And I wish you good luck, and I wish you to quickly recommend worthy candidates, because there is a threat regarding interruption in functioning of the Constitutional Court. With respect to myself, I have told you I'm a ready judge. I have experience of work, and from academic perspective and from empirical perspective. I know how to communicate regarding this. I know the nature of this process. At the same time, there are some delicate issues, because each judge has ego, and it should be communicated very carefully. Sometimes I'm joking, but it does not mean that I will behave in such a free, casual way with my colleagues. This is just an emphasis on delicate issues that judges should take decisions, because sometimes the Constitutional Court is being criticized for that, and colleagues should be set up in such a way that they fulfill their duties with integrity. That is really important for the constitutional statehood and for ensuring institutional capacities. It is important during the war, after all, because there are fundamental constitutional values with which the Constitutional Court is bound, and it can interpret them in depth. And the society expecting for the court to protect constitutional democracy, especially human rights, because there are problems regarding consideration of constitutional submissions, and the methodology should be amended there. And there are many worthy colleagues, primarily from the academic environment, who can facilitate with the role of the Constitutional Court. And I would like to thank you and wish you health and good luck, and glory to Ukraine. Glory to heroes. Mykhailo, thank you for your responses. Dear colleagues, dear public, now I am declaring interview with the candidate for the position of the Judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, Savchyn Mykhailo, completed.